You're listening to Genuine Chit-Chat. This show is for real.
Hello my friends and welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week is the first episode after episode 200, so thank you to everyone who was a part of the special Q&A episode last week, and we're doing another special one this week. It's another in-person conversation, and the majority of my conversations are over Zoom. Obviously the first year or so of me podcasting, it was all in person, but yeah, I haven't done an in-person conversation for a little while, and this is with my friend Jenna. Now, joining myself and Jenna is Megan, and we speak about Jenna's experience through breast cancer. So she is a breast cancer survivor, and she found that video games, especially The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, really helped her get through these times, especially as while she was going through this, we were in the COVID lockdowns. So Jenna was dealing with a lot at that time, but she's very open and honest about it and has a great humour about the whole thing. So although this conversation does centre around quite a dark topic, obviously being cancer, the actual conversation itself is quite light in a lot of ways and is really interesting. Jenna tells us about her experiences, what it actually feels like having cancer and going through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, things like that, and obviously how video game helped her through it. So I won't delve into any more in this intro, but make sure you check out the show notes for additional information, including links to certain things that Jenna has spoken about. And without further ado, I give you Jenna. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. I'm here today with two individuals, one of which is obviously my fiancée Megan, so everyone knows her.
Hello.
Everyone's excited when Megan's here. But also a friend of ours, Jenna.
Hello.
So Jenna we've been friends for a decade or so, I guess. Basically, our mutual friends went to festivals and parties, and then so mainly saw my cousin and then through that. And so we've known each other for ages. And
So the thing that bound us was
the doll.
It was no. It was just before the lockdown. It was just before the lockdown. I was doing afternoon tea for my mum, and then I put on Facebook, does anyone have any spare, like, Tupperware, like, baking
cake
tins?
tins? Yeah.
And then Jenna came to my rescue.
I was like, oh yeah.
I think I met you once.
Yeah, and I was like, you can also fill it with cakes as well and return it, and then that will be great. Yeah.
And then that happened.
And it did happen. There was scones involved. That was amazing.
Yeah, but it was funny because I'd only met you once at a festival, and then Mike came with me, and I was like, I have no idea who this person is.
Yeah, it was the briefest of meetings. It wasn't like a deep and meaningful chat. It was just, this is Megan and this is Jenna.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's one of those. And so we know each other for a while, and then obviously COVID hit. But what actually happened to you, Jenna, before that is something that you actually messaged me about the other day. I was surprised. You messaged me and was like, I could come on your podcast and talk about this. And it was cancer and gaming.
Yes.
Which is not something people would initially connect to, but you mentioned something that you posted on Reddit about Legend of Zelda and stuff. So it's going to be a really fun conversation to kind of delve into that. So starting off with this, before we delve into cancer and stuff like that, gaming itself. How long have you been into video games, and to what capacity and stuff have you enjoyed? Because I know you're a big Zelda fan, but...
I've watched a lot of people play games, like my sister's boyfriends that have, so for years we haven't had an actual gaming console. My first one was a GameCube.
Nice. That's a good console. Love a GameCube. Super Mario Sunshine, Super Smash Bros, Mario Kart.
It was also a silver limited edition one. I did make the mistake of taking it around to a friend's house because he had more games, so we were going to play some more, and then forgot to bring it home, and then they were students and left Southampton, and so somewhere there is if you're listening, Silver GameCube, I miss you, and I do think of you often.
It's funny how, like, having a limited edition games console is a flex. Like, I'm the same because I've got the Pikachu limited edition N64.
Oh,
so like yes. I'm like we have two N64s in the house because obviously when Mike and I got together, we just
put them together.
Amalgamated,
yeah, exactly.
Two N64s.
And I'm like, but if we sell one, it has to be yours because my one's the limited edition.
Yeah, because my one's the actual special one.
It's cheeks flash when you turn it on.
I've got a Wii U that's a Legend of Zelda Wind Waker one.
Oh.
So the gamepad has got like the Zelda markings all around it and the Triforce. Which and Megan was like, why don't you get rid of it? I was like, how dare you? It's my limited edition Wii U, but if you're going to play it again, that is not the point.
We've never played it.
I sat there and I was like, can I justify buying the new OLED Switch model for the Tears of a Kingdom, and I was just like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Because you're already buying the amiibo to go with it, and then you brought the game. That's enough. And then I was like, oh yeah, I also need a Pro Controller, because I'm not spending 700 plus hours on Tears of a Kingdom without, with just those Joy-Cons. No way am I doing that.
Because you played, during COVID and things, especially, you were starting to get more into video games. Was that like your video game renaissance?
Yes, well, I found an Xbox in the street.
I love this story, it's great.
And it was just laying there, and I was like, okay, right, I don't really want to touch it. I'll see if it's still there when I get back from shopping. It was, so as we went past with the trolley, I just picked it up, put it in the trolley, and we thought, right, we'll deal with that when we get home, just so no one stops me going, what are you doing picking up a
random
Xbox in the street? Took it home, I took it apart, and with a little bit of cajoling from another £14 off of eBay Xbox, I put 2 Xboxes together and made one work.
So one pieces were
so cool.
broken from one part and you put it in the other. That's very clever.
Yes.
You opened them up, everything with screwdrivers and stuff, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That was, That's one thing I love to do, is take things apart and then hopefully put them back together again and they work.
Okay, no touching my podcasting.
I know, I will not. I will not.
If we let you look after Willow and then you come around and start undoing everything.
Yeah, I'm not going to take Willow
laptop and your toaster. It's like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's like on Flight of the Conchords, I made you a camera phone and he just glued a disposable camera to the back of his Nokia. He's like, well, you kind of ruined my camera. And my phone.
Reminds me that I still need to watch Flight of the Conchords.
I thought you'd be the kind of person who had.
No,
so I made the reference.
No, because
such a good show.
Cara said it before. My sister said it before. She's like, "You will love it."
It's only like 6 or 8 episodes a season. There's only 2 seasons. And like half an hour long.
Yeah,
you can blitz it like an afternoon. They're great.
I'm gonna have to add it to the list of things that I need to watch.
The eternal list that everyone has.
Yeah, it's an eternal list.
So it was during COVID that you put together an Xbox.
Yes.
And started playing stuff on that.
Yes, and just sort of. It was a good outlet for being frustrated, not being able to go out, not being able to do things. And yeah, I think I borrowed some games off of you, which I still possibly
I think one
have.
of them was Rayman, wasn't it?
Oh
yeah, it was Rayman, and my then 9-year-old friend's daughter came round and could play it, and I couldn't. So I was like, "No, you can have that back now. I can't play that." So I was showed up by a 9-year-old. So I was like, "No, maybe that's not my game."
I think COVID did that to a lot of people because the abundance of time. Like with you, for example, you played Mario games and stuff when you were younger, and then like when COVID happened and stuff, and I heard about the new Animal Crossing game coming out.
I ordered Animal Crossing.
So I told you about that.
What did I bought Animal Crossing like 2 days before we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And it was the digital version, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was like the best decision that I could have possibly made.
Am I going to enjoy this game?
Because I'd watched people play Animal Crossing, and I was like,
we did a podcast on this, didn't we? During COVID, talking about your love of Animal Crossing.
I was just like, what the fuck are people doing? Like, it's just like going around like fishing.
No, but I can remember seeing your post on Facebook when you said that you'd finished one of your fish compendiums or something. I've now found everything, and I was just like, damn it, I collected all. I had a 5-star island rating, and I also collected every single fossil in the game. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that these come up on my memories now, obviously. And like, lockdown happened, it was like March, 23rd of March.
2020.
2020.
A bit years ago.
Do you know when I collected all of the fossils? It came up on my memories recently. May. It only took me 2 months. And it feels like I spent over 180 hours on this game.
And you played it for a little bit after that, but that was around the time of your decline because you almost completed it.
Yeah, because of the fucking chards. I couldn't catch this one particular fish.
So there's only a time of year that you could catch it at a time of night.
Yeah,
and it had to be on a certain type of river that was going in a certain way.
Yeah, it had to be at a high point in a river where there was
didn't it have to be raining as well?
Yeah, something fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yes. Animal Crossing.
So the Meg got Megan into it, and then when she was playing Animal Crossing stuff, I was like, oh, you could play Spyro and a bit of these other games, and learning more sort of...
I did, I played Spyro.
Like platformy sort of stuff, as well as Mario.
And then my mum and my brother got me The Witcher 3, and they also got me Breath of the Wild.
They got we played Breath of the Wild together.
We played Breath of the Wild together. The Witcher was for me, and then The Witcher I got really into.
That's what got you into gaming.
Yeah,
that's
still on the list for me.
It's so fucking good.
Hogwarts Legacy is next after.
So fucking
Hogwarts Legacy is almost like The Witcher.
So yeah, Hogwarts. So after I finished playing The Witcher 3, I was like, all I want to do is play a game that's like this. I was like, what game is like this? And Mike was like, well, there isn't one.
There's There's
like
Skyrim that's got like the similar gameplay in certain ways, but the story and the voice acting is not the same. There's other ones which have got really good story, but the gameplay.
Yeah, I was like, I want this, this, and this in my game, and Mike was like, "That's The Witcher." Like, there are no other games that are exactly the same.
That's
as
why
this.
people like it so much.
And I did start to play Red Dead 2, but I didn't really get into it.
We did one session, and then
and then I never really played it, and then Hogwarts Legacy came out, which obviously I knew I was going to play because I love Harry Potter. But Hogwarts Legacy is very similar to The Witcher 3 in everything that I wanted from a game.
Cool.
So it's really fun.
It's got enough RPG,
wholeheartedly
got enough
recommend.
action, got enough story, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so with that, so you were playing Xbox and you were getting into stuff like that, and then you bought a Switch then after that. So how did Breath of the Wild stuff kind of all happen? So
the Switch coincided with that was the cancer fairy gave me that.
Right, I see. Okay.
So that was after the diagnosis.
So do you want to tell us basically what kind of cancer you got and how you found out you had it and the kind of
and when?
Yeah, when and like the steps of.
So I think that I had the cancer longer than you
had it diagnosed.
Yes, basically. I was with my sister's dog Lola, who had for the umpteenth time pushed the ball underneath the sofa.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, for God's sake, I've got to go get it out again. So I literally reached my arm underneath the sofa and scooped it with my arm out and realised, no, that's a pain in that underneath my arm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to the doctors and they were like, that doesn't seem to be right. We'll send you off for tests and everything. And it came back that I had invasive ductal cancer. Yeah, invasive ductal cancer. It was HR negative. I might have to double check what the actual official diagnosis is.
I'll put it in the show notes specifically.
Yes, but yeah.
So you went into the doctors, you got a diagnosis and stuff because you felt you had
after you felt the pain. Like, how long did it take you to get a diagnosis?
As soon as I said that I felt a lump, they were like, "Okay, we'll bring you in," because this was just, we hadn't gone into lockdown. We were just about to go into lockdown, I think. No, because it was the December, so we must have already been. I think that's what it was. I was mostly like, right, just get on with doing this, isolation thing and staying at home.
Yeah.
And I just, went to the doctors. It was very quick from when I said that I had a lump to then getting the appointment. They insisted that I come in and actually physically get an exam rather than being like, oh yes, let's take a photo and send it in like they did during lockdown.
Yeah.
And then it was within 2 weeks I was seen it was like a triage clinic for people that suspected lumps and bumps that they needed, scans and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it was at the Lady Hospital.
Right.
Princess Anne.
Princess
That's it.
Anne, yeah.
I was oh god, yeah. Princess Anne Hospital, and I knew that it was serious when the doctor that examined me, even before I had any ultrasounds, said, right, so you're going to want to think about preserving eggs and fertility if this is cancer. And I was like, what? You haven't given me the results yet. And that's what made me think, okay, no, this is something serious.
Yeah, I see.
And then it was the 23rd of December. The doctor phoned and went, oh, I didn't want to make you worry over Christmas. So, unfortunately it is breast cancer, but don't worry, we'll get you in January and, we will do chemotherapy and, the doctor will explain it all. And, but yeah.
So you say it was after Christmas?
No, just before 2 days before
23rd.
Christmas.
And he said he didn't want to make you worry, but then...
Didn't want to make me worry over Christmas.
Oh, so he gave you the results.
So he gave me the results before Christmas. But then I was like, okay, I kind of maybe wanted one Christmas where I didn't have to know.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if you didn't have cancer and he was like, I didn't want to make you worry, you don't have cancer.
But then that made me worry more because I was like, obviously it's serious because they're phoning me up. They're not waiting for an appointment. They're phoning me up and going, no, we need to get you in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, but it's something that it runs in my family. My family is riddled with cancer, on both sides. Both female sides have breast cancer. We did, they did the genetic testing on me as well to see if I had the BRCA gene, but I don't.
Right.
But I reckon that there is a gene that is yet to be discovered that runs through our family, because the coincidence of the amounts of cancers and the types of cancers in both sides is just ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a case of who's going to get it first.
Right, I see.
So, yeah. Yeah, I maybe thought it was going to be my mum, being the older person, but, it just happened to be me.
Yeah, and then from there, so then you started your treatment in January. How long did you have chemo for?
So this is January 2021?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, very strange time. I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy. It was ECT chemotherapy, which I was like, hang on, that's electric convulsive therapy. But it wasn't. There was some evil red stuff for 3 weeks.
Right.
Or for 3 infusions.
How often did you actually have these sessions? How far apart were they?
It would be on a 3-weekly schedule. So you would have your infusions, then I would have to do a injection the next day, take steroids, and loads of anti-sickness tablets. And then you would have, 3 weeks of getting over that.
Right. And
then you would go back for another round.
So 18 odd weeks of it, plus the few weeks after that you felt the effects for. So you're dealing with that for basically 22, 24 weeks.
Yeah.
5-6 months?
Yeah, it felt very strange to be in that situation. And it felt like ages as well.
And you just sit there and they've got you hooked up to an IV drip and you just wait for the infusion to go in you basically for hours?
Because it was COVID, we were at the Spire hospital, so it was a private hospital, because they wanted to keep us separate because we were obviously compromised immune systems with the chemotherapy. Brain fart again.
That's fine. It's one of those things as well where it's also such a strange time, and I know that when you're going through the therapy, it gives you all these strange symptoms and stuff. Like, what if going in there, I assume did it hurt when you were hooked up to the IV?
They had to, it was the infusion itself was done over a designated period of time. The first 3 that I had, they had to be done by a nurse who would sit in there, and I could feel it going. It's an incredibly weird sensation. If you've ever had a CT or an MRI and had to have a contrast run through,
right.
You can feel the coldness of it because it's not the same temperature as your body. So you feel it go through your veins and up your arm. And then when they flush the cannula that you've got, it's cannula. Anyway, when they flush it with the saline, you can taste the saline at the back of your mouth as well.
Wow, that's weird.
Okay.
So you're like, okay, well, at least I know it's working. So, they're not in the wrong place. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And that just makes you feel like absolute shit for the weeks subsequent, doesn't it? Like exhausted and discomfort, I assume, like pain, like can't get comfy.
It completely drains your batteries. Yeah. There is no energy in you whatsoever. Like getting out of bed to go to the toilet, you then have to sleep for 4 hours to regain your strength. I completely understood what it was doing in order to break those cancer cells down and attack them. But it felt brutal.
It was like a carpet bomb of your system, really, to try and get the cancer. That's kind of the equivalent of what chemo does. It's just like attacks everything, and then here's some drugs that's hopefully going to help the stuff that's not being attacked intentionally, and then.
But then it could also hurt other things in your body,
and it does often.
And it's.
And did you know you had any pre-existing conditions when you were diagnosed with cancer?
I had recently, in the same year, been diagnosed with fibromyalgia as well.
I thought it was that, but yeah.
So that
tiredness.
Yes, it
exhaustion on exhaustion.
Yeah, I think that if it, in a way, I was quite used to that tiredness, that not having the energy, that not knowing what you're going to wake up to. So the cancer treatment itself were kind of similar feelings of not having enough energy and body aches. I mean, one of the symptoms of the side effects from the chemo was it felt like someone was sitting on my chest. It was the injection the next day after the infusion was to kickstart my system back into producing whatever it was supposed to that they'd killed off with the infusion. And that was the trigger of having to take the steroids and then being, wanting to eat, but you have absolutely no appetite and you have no idea what you want to eat because you can't taste things the same as before. I mean, I know in COVID, certain cases of COVID, you lose your sense of taste. But you don't lose your complete sense of taste. It's just everything changes slightly. It's like your taste buds are drunk and they have no idea what they're doing. So you're told to avoid foods that you would usually eat because if you eat your favourite food during chemo, you run the risk of never being able to eat that favourite food again.
Oh, wow.
Because, I mean, there are meals that I can't eat now because I had them during chemotherapy and I don't know whether my body is just going, no, it remembers, hang on, no, don't eat that.
All right. So, it associates it with the...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mental. So I hadn't really thought about that. But I know one of the things with cancer and especially chemotherapy is one loses their appetite a lot of the time. And the problem with that is that it happened with my dad.
It happened with my granddad and my nan.
They don't want to eat. Because they don't want to eat, they eat less, and then that makes them weaker, and then the chemo gets worse, and it's just this negative feedback loop, so it's like a really unpleasant thing. So explaining it like that's even more interesting. It makes even more sense as to why it affects people like it does. Yeah,
I mean, because my brain was like, right, you need to eat food, you need to keep your energy up, because you're fighting this, like, you need to keep going, but that sense of, oh, I'm hungry, or I need to eat food... It's not a revulsion, but you can't find something that will satisfy your, like, it must be like a pregnancy craving type thing. You need to find the correct thing to eat because otherwise you feel like you're going to throw it up.
That's rough on top of everything else. And then the psychological, worries as well with going through something like that. Like obviously every day you're being reminded of what it is that you're going through. And
knowing that once you feel slightly better, they're going to put another lot in your arm and you're going to have to go through all over again.
Yeah. And so after with the, we go through the chemo and all that sort of stuff, you kind of came out after the 20-odd week treatment of it all. And then once you stopped having treatment, did it say that you're in the clear? Did you then have to go to radiotherapy? What was the kind of journey after chemo?
Yeah, well, they decided to do the chemotherapy first to try and shrink the cancer.
Yep.
So then when they went in with surgery, they would have to do less invasive surgery.
Yep.
And then I wouldn't have to have, like, major reconstruction or anything.
What stage were you at? Because obviously I know that stage 4 is the bad stage, isn't it?
That was strange, because I asked my oncologist, I said, okay, so what stage am I at? Because that's what everyone says, is like stage, 2, 3, 4. And she was like, oh, we don't do it by that. And I was like, yeah, but everyone's going to ask me what stage I'm at. And she was like, oh, you're kind of like on the border between 2 and 3. And I was like, okay, thanks.
I'm stage 2.5.
Yeah.
Everybody. 2.4.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't, it was bordering on growing faster, but it wasn't growing fast enough to be a stage 3, but it wasn't quite a stage 2.
Yeah. So it had the potential.
Yes.
It had the potential.
So you had chemotherapy, they adjusted your medication and those sort of things, and then did they do the surgery?
Yes.
Yep.
My oncologist was very surprised at how well the chemotherapy worked. She was pleasantly surprised. It was great. Nice big smile on her face, which made me happy.
Yeah, that's good.
So then we went for surgery. So I had a lumpectomy, and I had my lymph nodes. I had about 20 lymph nodes taken from underneath my arm. They then obviously send everything out for testing to see. That's the point when they know what stage the cancer is, when they can officially send it off to a lab. When it's not still in your body, they don't want to tell you what it is. They want you to wait until they send it off. I've lost my train of thought now.
That's fine. We were talking about, like, after, say, cut you open the other surgery.
Oh, yeah, surgery,
They took what they could out and then sent it off.
Yeah.
And then
sent them off, and they said that there was still cancer remaining in 12 of the 20 lymph nodes. So they were still concerned about that because that was kind of the seat of the cancer. There was a very small lump. I think it was only 4 to 5 millimeters in diameter that they had to take out of the side of my breast. And yeah, then they were like, oh yeah, well, we'll also send you for some radiotherapy as well. And I was like, do you know what? Just throw it all in. May as well. You know, I've had the chemo. So yeah, then I had, I think it was 32 sessions of radiotherapy. And that was every weekday.
Oh, wow.
Every weekday?
For, I think it was about a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
So that was luckily I managed to get patient transport because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get to the hospital for 7:15 in the morning.
How long were you there at the hospital for the radiotherapy?
That was an issue in itself. Because of the surgery, I couldn't lift my arms above my head to sit in the position that was required to have the radiotherapy. But there was no suitable pain medication available, so I just had to lay there. So most of the time when I was having radiotherapy, I was crying because it was an incredibly... You have to have your arms above your head. You're supported your entire body, but it's a very unnatural position that you have to stay in. And there is this machine that is incredibly close to you, moving around you. Yeah.
Like vibrating or something, or like it was like an MRI sort of thing, but super close and loud, invasive. Because I don't know anything about radiotherapy. You have to know the specific things, but is it like a machine going round you, just making loud noise?
The weird thing is I was laying in the machine, and it's happened a couple of times in different machines, and I look up and I'm like, hang on a minute, that's an Xbox logo. And I'm like, are they playing an Xbox in there? But it's to do with, there's certain type of technology in an Xbox, which is also used in medical devices.
Right.
And so I wasn't seeing things as I was seeing this like little X logo on things. They use the same technology.
Wow.
And they work with, it was a big massive Siemens machine that they put me in. I have a photo actually, I can share it with you.
Oh, amazing. That's really cool.
Of me.
So you have to stand there, so you're laying down, you're stood up?
Yeah, you're laying down, and you're supported like underneath your legs. They have tattooed, in preparation for radiotherapy, you get placement tattoos. So a man just came up to him and was like, I'm just going to give you a tattoo. And I was like, okay. And he literally just pokes you with a needle with a bit of, it's a very, very old school tattooing. Pokes you with a needle with a bit of ink in it, and that's it. But that's how they can tell exactly where the machine is, because they only want to radiate the cancer.
Yep.
Because they run the risk of damaging both the top of your lung, which I think they have done because my breathing is different. I mean, I know I'm a smoker as well, but yeah, that was strange because the effects of that as well. I mean, even now, if I sit in with a seatbelt across my shoulder, it will create a very strange bruise on my collarbone.
Oh.
And I think that it's a leftover effect of the radiotherapy and the radiation and how my skin's still affected.
Wow.
But
that's mad.
Yeah.
And with the radiotherapy, how long were you in there for each session?
Oh, it felt like hours, but it was probably only about 8 minutes at a time, which also
8 minutes,
yeah,
every single day.
Yeah, which also was quite annoying because you knew that it was such a short amount of time.
7:45 in the morning.
Yeah, so you'd turn up and you'd be like, okay, right, it's like 8:15, or like I think the earliest one I had was like 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. Luckily, patient transport was there because otherwise there was no hope of getting a bus there at that point. And you'd turn up and it would take you longer to get undressed and into the gown and then back out of the gown than it would you were actually in there for.
That's nuts.
I didn't realise it was such a short.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was so short.
Yeah, because I knew chemo was like an hour or a couple hours, but radiotherapy.
It works through its program. It's very, very computing like. So it works through its little program, and it moves. It moves all, like they type it all into it. It was 37.5 centimeters away from me.
Right.
Because at some point they were shouting out different measurements, and I was like, that one's always 37.5. I said, I don't know what it is, but that one's always 37.5. So yeah, by the end of it, you're very used to it, and you know the nurses that are doing it as well. So, and the kind of the same with the chemo as well, but that was just because I was wearing my sparkly dog mines.
Oh, nice.
And so they were like, oh, it's her, you've got to come see these shoes. And like all the nurses would be like, oh, your shoes are amazing. I was like, yes, thank you. So they all knew that it was me when I would always come in my chemo boots.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you did the radiotherapy, and then did they have to do surgery on you again to check out the...
No, I regularly, as in on Wednesday, actually, I have to go get an MRI. But yeah, they did an MRI and a mammogram to double check that they had mopped it all up.
Yep. And
that it wasn't existing anymore. If they would have found anything, then they probably would have done a biopsy of whatever they would have found just to check. But luckily, touch wood, there was nothing there. And hopefully on Wednesday there will also be nothing there.
And is it like after you're cancer free, it's like, right, first you have to check every couple of months, then every longer, and then a longer span of time for checkups?
So you start on 3 monthly appointments of seeing your oncologist, and they won't necessarily scan you, but if there's anything to worry about, you bring it up, and then you get a yearly mammogram and a yearly MRI. So it checks, boobies first, and then they check the rest of your... I suspect they're checking my lymphatic system just with the lymph node involvement, just to check that there's nothing, hiding. But they do warn you that there can be sleeper cells that want to stay in your body and just be quiet for a while, and then they can wake up whenever and develop into cancer. But that's the risk that every single person walking across the planet has anyway. So
yeah,
it's just mine's a little bit higher than yours.
I forgot to ask, with radiotherapy, are there any side effects? Because you mentioned about it with chemotherapy, but with radiotherapy?
Because the chemo you lose your hair, but you shaved your hair off, didn't you?
I donated my hair because it was very curly and nearly down to my bum. And I was like, well, somebody has got to get use out of this hair, because I don't just want to shave it and put it in the bin. So it went to the little princesses.
Well, Megan didn't shave her head, but
I didn't shave my head, but I did donate my hair to the little princess.
I shaved my head twice when I given it one.
They got 12 inches from me.
Yeah. So they got my hair, but it was a bit difficult because my mum's ex-hairdresser.
Yeah. So
she was like, oh, but you can style it like this. And I'm like, it's not going to last that long. I'm going to have chemotherapy, and within 3 weeks, my hair was gone.
Yeah.
Like, of my first chemotherapy. Yeah. But I mean, I've never really cared about my hair. It's curly. It lives on my head. I don't see it. So it doesn't really bother me. And the worst thing was losing the eyebrows.
You lose your hair everywhere, don't you? That's somewhat you don't have to upset to the extreme, but you're welcome to if you're willing.
You get surprisingly used to being hairless.
Okay.
And now I do not bother to shave my underarm hair. One, because one of my underarms doesn't have any feeling, so it's like shaving somebody else's body. It's very strange.
Is that the one that the cancel's under?
Yeah. So I don't have feeling like a lot of feeling underneath there, and it runs a little bit down my arm, so I can't feel the back of my arm. But yeah.
So radiotherapy, you did. What were the symptoms of that?
Tiredness.
Yep.
So I was pretty used to that by the chemotherapy standards. So I kind of, it was another. It felt like another knockback. Like you knew that it was doing what it was supposed to do, but you were like, oh my God, why me? I feel like I've been feeling ill and not being able to do anything for so long.
And do you think it was... it's one of those weird things when I spoke to Dad about it. It's like when you have whatever the symptoms are that make you know you've got it, they're unpleasant, but they don't necessarily feel the worst. But when you do the chemo and the radiotherapy and stuff, the symptoms you often get from the treatment is worse than the thing itself, even though the thing can eventually kill you.
Yeah.
So one of those strange paradoxes, and there's one of those unfortunate truths, which although I'm all for radiotherapy and chemotherapy, obviously, but there are instances where unfortunately people die from basically chemotherapy. It tries to get rid of it and it does too much damage to them and they don't bounce back. And it's one of those unfortunate truths, but as technology's getting better and things, it is much better in that regard. But going with something lighter, unless Megan wanted to ask anything specific further about cancer, it was going on to a lighter note, so gaming.
Yes.
So you went through all of this stuff. That was like the timeline of your cancer stuff. Was that over the space of a year and a half, all in all, kind of from diagnosis to loosely all? Well, you were in the all clear for the time being.
Oh no! It was all done in a year. So I finished my radiotherapy in sort of the September, October time, I think it was. So it was. Yeah, quite a chunk of that year.
Yeah.
But,
and then how did gaming, like, you mentioned it, so
you mentioned the Cancer Fairy got your Switch.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the my stepmom, originally the Switch was Animal Crossing. So, because obviously Cara was playing this already, my sister Cara was playing this already. So it was a chance that she could then come to my island and I could go to hers and, you know, it would keep me going during appointments.
We never went to each other's islands.
No, we didn't.
Because you stopped playing it by the time.
Oh, yeah,
because I was already into Breath of the Wild by that time. So for my birthday of that year, my stepmom brought me Breath of the Wild. So I was very much in an Animal Crossing bubble at that point in time. So I picked up Breath of the Wild and I did, you know, the Great Plateau. And then I was like, oh, now what do I do? So I put the game down. And it was radiotherapy, which was the massive amount of tiredness and the being awake that early in the morning, because radiotherapy was always first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
You had to fill the rest of your day with something. So it was gaming. So yes. So 700 plus hours so far. In Breath of the Wild.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I am 98.37.
Oh, you're trying to 100% it?
Well, it told me after I bothered to kill Ganon at the last, I didn't want to complete it. I've done all I've done all the side quests. I've done have you
got all the Korok seeds?
Yes, I did know. Yes,
yes.
Fucking
and
Korok seeds.
Hestu gave me his little poo hat, and you can't even fucking wear it. Yeah, it just sits in your inventory, and you're like, I did 900, but knowing that Tears of the Kingdom you have 1,000. That's what I've read so far.
And Tears of the Kingdom as well, the map. You've got the main map, then you've got the sky map, and
you've got 3.
Map,
oh my god.
3 times the size.
So far in Tears of the Kingdom, I have yet to find Korok in the depths.
Yeah.
I think they are just in the sky and on land. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be missing lots of Koroks in the depths right now, because, you know, there are a lot of them.
Yeah. With Breath of the Wild, so you obviously put it down and then you picked it up again because of radiotherapy. You got really into it. One thing that Megan really enjoyed because we played Breath of the Wild together, because I love Zelda games. I've tried to play as many as I possibly can. I've always been playing them.
We take it in turns.
Yeah, normally I would fight big, scary bosses and baddies, and Megan, on the way, would like to...
I'd like to ride the animals and kill... I'd like to ride horses and then run into animals and then collect meat.
And then start cooking.
Is what
so
I
maybe we cook loads of stuff for me in my inventory and then kill a few animals here and there. And then I'd go out and to fight these giant bosses. Like Megan would fight...
Mike would be like, okay, it's your turn. And I'd be like, right, I know what I'm going to do. And he's like, you're not going to just ride a horse and kill animals, are you? I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Not just that,
but she'd like go exploring forests and find loads of fruit and do all the foraging. And I'd be like, I want to climb that giant mountain and do a
And then I did the Hyrule Compendium. Like, did you take your photos?
Oh, yeah, we completed that.
Yeah. Good.
We got all of the
every memory, did the compendium.
We did all of the side quests and stuff like that. We just haven't fought Ganon.
Literally, if we beat Ganon, we've like.
Do you know what? You don't really have to.
We've even got the special horse.
Yeah, we got the special horse.
Oh, what, the massive horse?
Yeah, the white one. The white one that you have to get at a certain time.
Oh no, I've got her as well. Is it? See, I'm not I'm not as I don't want to use it geeky in a derogatory term.
Generally, nerdy is not on this podcast.
I don't know the names of every single law and history.
No, we don't. We don't know that at all.
I look at the Reddits and things like that. That's fine. Yeah, I can do that. But I'm not like, oh, such and such, that can't happen because such and such didn't do that at such and such time. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm just play the game. Just play the game and enjoy it.
Well. I mean, Zelda is such a fun game because you can just choose to do literally whatever you want in any order.
Yeah.
We like to get horses, didn't we? Name them stupid names. I can't remember what our horse's name was.
Bojack was the main
one. Of them was really fucking dumb, one of the names, and Mike and I were pissing ourselves laughing and making it. And then we went on the game maybe a month later and we were like, why did we find that so funny?
We don't know.
I can't remember
what the horse's name or the stupid
They're the best ones though, when you're like, oh, I know it's an in-joke between us two, but I can't even remember the joke. Yeah. So
anyone would be looking at the horse's name, they'd be like, oh, what's the story behind that? And all of us would be like, don't know. Have no idea.
Because we used to it was great fun, and it's such a fun game because it's so open and freeing. And it's also, both that and Animal Crossing, you're basically just running around in the sunshine, in the grass and everything like that. And
it's escapism, totally.
And you posted on Reddit, because you sent me the link and stuff, to a post you put into Zelda. I wonder if you could just elaborate on what the post was, what the kind of point you were making with it.
It was me lamenting the fact that I don't have many people to talk about Zelda with. So it's a big part of my life, and it really helped me through cancer. But if I go and have a conversation with my sister about what I've just done in a game, she just looks at me blankly going, yeah, that's great.
My mum used to be like that because it's not obviously the Zelda for you has even more of a special meaning, but The Witcher 3 got me through a lot, and my mum would talk to me about what I'd done. I'd be like, oh yeah, today I did this and this, and I went into a cave and I beat some spiders. Yeah. And then she's like, it's a game, right? And I'm like,
it's like, yes, it's a game.
Or I'd be playing Animal Crossing, and I'm like, I went fishing today and I caught a whale shark. And she's like, Megan, it's a game. But it means something. It's like a story, isn't it? You get invested in the story. It's like reading a book.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I love video games. They're so great for that, and you should just get... That's why they eat up time. And that's why during COVID it was so fun playing video games. But now I've got the new Star Wars game and trying to find time for it because I have to really give it 2 or 3 good hours. I was like, I'll just play for an hour, and I was up to 3:30 in the morning. I was like, what have I done?
During lockdown, Mike would come in and be like, Megan, you've been playing for 7 hours, and I'm like, no, I haven't. And I'd be like, oh my god.
We had breakfast, at the sort of, because it was while I was working from home. Megan, when she was working from home, managed to do most of her work in the mornings because the school had it in a certain way the home learning. So she got all that cleared. So by midday she was done. So I was working.
I regularly checked my email.
Yeah, you responded to people.
I regularly checked my email.
You needed to, but at the first lockdown especially, you didn't necessarily have to do as much. You have to be ready. So you were playing video games to a degree, and then it was like these periods of time would go, and you'd just be like, I'd finish work and I'd do something else, go have a shower and come back, and I'd be like, are you done? No, I just one more thing. It's like, do you know what, we can spend time together now. So I just want to play the game. I was like, I know you want to play the game. You can play it all day. I've been playing it that long. I was like, Megan, you haven't got up to the toilet.
You've got to catch the chart.
You haven't got up to the toilet in 5 hours. If you walk past the room I'm working in to go to the toilet, you haven't been. And then she stopped the game actually, I really need to wait.
Well, it's that's what I have to do at the moment with Tears of a Kingdom. I'm like, right, okay. Before you go and do that, before you go into the depths, or before you try and take that encampment of bokoblins or whatever it is, you're like, right, have you done everything you need to do in the day? Have you done your washing? Have you been an actual, productive human so far? Can you warrant spending a chunk of time on it? And I'm usually like, yeah, I can justify spending
you can massive justify
amounts of time.
It also helps because it got you through this time, and now you've got this connection to it.
Yeah, I mean, even I managed. Well, I found there was several different cancer charities that I found, and there was Shine Cancer Support, which deals with cancer in 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Is that the one that Cara shaved her head for? Yeah.
Yeah. They've just told us that our Shine Camp is going ahead again this year. So I've had more people that I went last year with. I mean, and these are complete strangers. We just have all had cancer.
Oh. Okay.
And it just so happened that they were like, right, let's go camping. So
that's nice.
So we all go down to a big field, and there are activities you can join, or if you're not really up to it, then you don't have to. There's food put on, and like there's a pizza truck and stuff, and you're with people who totally understand if you're not able to do something, or if you have an emotional moment, and the families as well. The families sit there, and the kids whose parents have had cancer are friends with each other, and they paint rocks together, and it's beautiful. But also through the Shine network, I found Gamers Beat Cancer, which is a charity which basically gives people that are affected by cancer gaming equipment. So I applied, and they gave me a Xbox One.
Oh wow.
So I was very thankful for that. So, so I now not only have Nintendo, I have Xbox to choose from. So
that's exciting.
So yeah, that's a Dreamlight Valley, love fest at the moment, but it's not, because Tears of a Kingdom.
Yeah, at the moment, that's the
Tears of a Kingdom.
That's what you've got. It's funny, you got to play Breath of the Wild at the perfect time, because you had a little bit of a break from it, and then suddenly there was a lot of other people that played when it first came out, so they've been waiting years.
Yeah, they've been waiting a very, very long time. I've only been waiting a year and a bit.
Well, for Breath of the Wild, between the last game that was a full game in the same sort of style was Twilight Princess on the Wii. Because the Breath of the Wild was advertised for the Wii U initially. It was going to come out when the Wii U comes out. Oh, no, it'll be a bit of a delay, but we've got Wind Waker HD, which is amazing. And they're like, oh no, just wait. And then the Switch was announced, and everyone was like, what? And they're like, oh, we're releasing on both. And you're like, okay, so it's almost for several years we had no new Zelda games that were original in that style.
Yeah.
And then Breath of the Wild came out, which is a massive game. It took ages. You can see why it took so long.
And it was it was a shift in...
We completely changed the game
in style as well.
There's so many games now that are sort of copycats. There's that Phoenix Rising.
That's what I was going to say. Have you heard of Phoenix Rising?
No, but maybe I should add that to the list as well.
It wasn't even...
borrow it off us.
To be fair, I haven't played it in a while, so yeah, you can borrow it if you want to.
I have no time at the moment.
But it's basically Breath of the Wild, but with Greek mythology.
And better combat.
Oh, okay.
It's really fucking good. It is really
It's got
funny.
actual proper dialogue.
Yeah, I got obsessed with it, and then we moved house, and I haven't touched it since.
Because if you pick it back up, you'll be lost in it again.
Well, it's also that I've forgotten the remote, the controls.
Oh no,
so I have to learn the controls
It's quite
again.
similar to Breath of the Wild.
It is very similar to Breath of the Wild. Yeah, maybe I'll finish Hogwarts Legacy. Well, I have finished Hogwarts Legacy. I want to do all of the rest of the side bits, but maybe I'll go back to Phoenix Rising. But I wholeheartedly recommend it to you. It's considerably cheaper. It wasn't that expensive when I bought it. I think it was only £17.
So it rings a bell. It may even be on Game Pass as well.
Could be. It's on all consoles. So
I might.
It's really good.
If you finished Tears of the Kingdom and you want another fix, then because shout out to Chris, he's of Comics Emotion. He recommended it to us, and he said if you like Breath of the Wild, you'll love this. I've been playing it, and it's very similar.
Tom and Laura also told us about it.
Yeah, both of them, and Tom's been on the podcast as well. It's one of those things that I find with video gaming, and even I have it with, and I'm going to say it because the buzzword Star Wars, is that people often judge, generally people that I'm friends with and podcast with, they're not too judgy about those sort of things because most of them are nerds as well. But a lot of people judge you for wanting to do stuff. And I've come to this conclusion, and it sounds really dark and depressing, but it's everything is equally meaningless. Whether or not you watch all of reality TV, you read 1,000 books, you understand every concept of philosophy, you know every religion, you've travelled the entire world, all of these different things, although there's value in different elements of them for different reasons. If you want to play video games for a decent chunk of your time, as long as it doesn't destroy the rest of your life and you can still function as human.
It's just your hobby, isn't it?
Why does it make any difference? How is you knowing and spending a lot of time reading, doing Zelda any less bad than someone reading every Tarek Pratchett book?
Or knowing every single flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
being
watching all of these soap operas. Or, you know what I mean? Or watching every Netflix series or every Marvel thing like I watch or Star Wars. None of it has any more or less value. And even sport, a lot of sport people are very against nerdy stuff. It's you're all nerds as well. You're just nerding
you're just nerding in a different zone.
Yeah. You're still nerding about a game as well. Yeah. It's just you're nerding about a game that they're playing. We're nerding about a game that has actual narrative and investment. We're just not watching millionaires play a child's game. We're actually playing the game. We're invested.
Yes, they're just people in shorts kicking a ball.
Yeah. But it links to what you said about the Reddit post, doesn't it? You don't have anyone to talk to about that because...
There's no one... apart from you guys, that play games that understand that it's not just a avoidance tactic.
No, it's not just escapism.
It's not just that. There was one of the ladies replied to my Reddit post, and she said about the fact that Link starts off naked, pretty much like naked, with no hearts, no stamina, no nothing.
Fresh human.
And you have to systematically, no bloody memories and all those fucking Koroks to find. But you have to systematically build yourself back up. And it is that kind of, you need that, those little missions you go on. You get a reward. You get an endorphin reward from doing that. The brain chemistry. I mean, there's studies into how gaming is actually an effective kind of counselling tool and, way of coping.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I used to play video games all the time in college. There was bonding with friends. There was escapism. I got into certain mythologies.
It's also good for students with autism. We've got a special provision at work for students with more challenging needs.
Yeah.
And they have an Xbox and stuff down there so that when they're having a moment, they can use it as a way to de-stress and centralize themselves and rebalance their aura, so to speak. But
that quiets the static of life, I find. You've always got this buzz of static, whether it's taxes, where you're living, animals, career, social situations, all these things. When you play video games, or I find when you watch a really good movie, especially TV series, as well, but movies, I get it. Watch a good movie, especially in the cinema, or play a video game, or get immersed in a book. Just the static and the noise of everything else you have to think about all the time. You've got 10 things going on in your head all at once. It just kind of melts away. That just kind of
turns the volume down on them slightly.
Yeah, and you just get to focus on one thing that if you fail at, it doesn't actually make any difference. There's no pressure. And that's one of the things I love about Star Wars, is that I can spend as much time as I want getting into Star Wars, and if I spend ages doing it or not so much doing it, it doesn't really matter. I can choose how much. Whereas education, some of the ways that I struggled was there was a time limit. And I'm not one of those, if I get
I can't deal with the time limit.
I can't just know this one event. I need to know all the connecting stuff around it, even if it's not relevant. And I have that language.
I have to have context for everything in my life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's even in maths, when I learn things, I'm always asking questions, and teachers have been annoyed me for all these questions and stuff. But it's I want to know. It's even when working in insurance, I ask lots of questions, even if it's not directly to do with the thing I'm asking about, the claim I'm dealing with. I ask about all these things around it, and there's a pressure. You have to know all these things. When it's a hobby, it's video games or anything like that, there's just no pressure. It's just you.
Yeah.
You just have fun. You can just so if you're playing
you invest as much time into it as you want, don't you? If you want to know the ins and outs of the names of every single fucking temple that there is, then that's your prerogative and that's something that you enjoy. But
then
you can also
Zelda dungeon, thank you very much.
Then you can also just ride around on a horse and kill some animals.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Freedom though, isn't it? You can go out there and you can be hey, I'm playing Zelda today, and Zelda's a perfect example, which is not dissimilar, where you can be I just want to have a day where I just go and farm stuff and I just make loads of things and I do all the quests
go and
about
shoot stuff.
Or I just want to ride into the distance and go to these places I've never been before. Just
want to find annoying Koroks. Yeah.
That is very addictive.
The Koroks are the thing that pissed me off the most about
I was really good at finding
Mike was so annoying because he'd be it would be my turn, and he'd be go to the top of that mountain. And I'm I don't...
poles.
It would be poles and mountains. And
is there a random object that shouldn't be there? Climb it.
Yeah, a massive fucking tree in the middle of nowhere. And he'd be he's climb the tree. And I'm I don't want to climb the tree. And he's but it's the only tree around here. That's weird. It's out of place. Yeah. And he was climb the tree. And I'm there's not going to be a Korok seed up here, Mike. And then I climb the tree and there'd be a fucking Korok seed. And I'm just oh! I'm it was just 99% of the time Mike was right about where these goddamn Korok seeds were. And I was just it's so annoying.
You get if you found enough of them, you get an affinity with how to recognise.
Yeah. You'd be there's some stones over there.
Yeah, there's
one stone's missing.
And there's a pile of leaves there. I wonder what's underneath that pile of leaves. I wonder if I've got to throw something that will make that burn on top. Yeah.
Bloody Koroks.
It's such a fun game, Zelda. And
they have slightly tweaked the Koroks in Tears of a Kingdom as well, so it's okay.
And have you been enjoying Tears of a Kingdom? Would you say it more, because there's so many more mechanics of creativity, I know, from the trailers we've seen.
It's fucking overwhelming when you get there, because you're okay, this is not just one game, this is 3 games in one.
Even the first one was overwhelming.
But I mean, I like it because I played a bit of Skyward Sword.
That was the one since Twilight Princess. Sorry, it's Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword then.
And Twilight Princess. Yeah. So I'm kind of used to being doing the flying thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm not so used to in Tears of a Kingdom when you have to dive really fast because
Because he's got a little board, hasn't he? Oh no, you have that anyway, don't you?
It's when you go from that.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So you've got your paraglider, but when you dive off, there's certain shrines where you have to follow a diving path down and at a certain time limit, a 30-second time limit, and you're just this feels really wrong. I am plummeting to the earth at like excess speed. I'm going to die. So yeah, that's one of the shrines I have yet to complete.
Would you never do skydiving then?
I'd love to go skydiving.
I've done it. It's incredible.
I would love to go skydiving.
It's not like anything else.
But I would not like to go Link skydiving.
Well, just you when you do normal skydiving,
yeah.
You have to do a certain 100 amounts of jumps before you can do solo. But
yeah.
It's incredible. It's not like anything else. But yeah, sorry to steal the spotlight there. Just like, hey guys, I've been skydiving. Just to let you guys know. But yeah, I love those games. I love the action adventure. I love the style of them all, and I just think they're such an incredible thing, especially for people, either like yourself or like even during COVID, or just an escape from the stresses of work and life and stuff. Like gaming is so amazing.
When you have a game that you're excited to play, it's just such a nice. Like when I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, because I've finished it now, I've
lost a bit of steam.
I've lost a bit of steam to want to go and play it. Yeah. But I would come home from work and be like, right, I'm going to play the Hogwarts Legacy for an hour, and then Mike would come down. He's like, can we hang out now? And I'm like, just let me do this one thing.
Something to look forward to, isn't it?
Let me do this one thing. Just let me do this one thing.
Yeah, just one more.
Just let me talk to Sebastian. Mike. Let me talk to Sebastian.
And I'm like, if you talk to him, it's going to start a new quest, and you're going to want to go and do that. But it's something to look forward to, and that's what I find when I explain back to the word Star Wars is.
Oh, 3 times.
I always I've always got something. Obviously, I look forward to seeing Megan and Willow and all that sort of jazz, but it's a different kind of thing. It's like at the end of each day, I get to consume some sort of Star Wars content. I get to read my book or comics or whatever, and it's just this little thing where people ask me a lot of time, why do you only read Star Wars? I do read bits and pieces of other stuff, but it's just like I get so much enjoyment and serotonin just from doing that, and just like with you playing Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild so much, it's like you enjoy that and you get happiness from it, so you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
So just.
Those happy chemicals.
It is written on my massive whiteboard that, do not apologise for enjoying things that you love.
100%.
As long as it's not murder. It does say underneath it.
Yeah, as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
As long as it's not murder.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to live by. But is there any... I've got noted down about the charity Shine and things, and you've obviously taken us through the cancer story and about the meaning of video gaming and Legend of Zelda specifically. Is there anything else you kind of want to mention before we wrap this up?
I don't think so.
It doesn't have to be. It's just we're chatting about how,
Is it coming up to 2 years that you've been in remission?
Yeah, and it was diagnosed in 2020, treated in 2021.
Yeah.
So
coming up to 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting.
So yeah, I get to have a nice little MRI where when you have the MRI, they put the contrast in, and it makes you feel like you peed yourself.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very strange sensation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting used to it.
Is there anything else you want to say to anyone about either video gaming or cancer or anything else, just to sign this off?
No, I'd just like to say a big thank you to you and for letting me come on and talk about it.
Yeah. So what I want to do is wanting to let people know these experiences. I find it so interesting because obviously, my dad passed away from cancer and my nan as well, and there's just other people we know. Obviously,
both my grandparents.
Yeah, it's going to be a part of.
It's like Bake Off. We watched the Stand Up to Cancer Bake Off, and it reminds you.
And it's like 1 in 2 people. It's like
that was quite annoying because that was over when I was diagnosed, and I was like, yes, I'm currently going through that. Can you shut up, please?
Can I have like a pass so I can just skip through all the cancer stories?
Yes.
I've said that with Megan. I'm like,
whenever it happens, Mike, we mute it and then we wait for it to go.
I have to. I mean, Mum's at home watching the Sarah Beanie episode on cancer. I can't. I lived it. I don't want to see somebody else be affected that much by something that I lived through.
Exactly. It's a dark enough thing that you've lived through, so you don't need to experience it again necessarily. But yeah, just thank you so much for coming on and being so honest. It's been so interesting hearing about all the different elements of what one can go through. Obviously, different cancers, different things, and it's like everyone's their own unique experience. But thank you so much for sharing it with us. It's been delightful, and I'm glad that you found gaming and stuff. And but you're looking forward to signing this off and going to play Tears of the Kingdom.
That is exactly what I'm going to do now.
When you come over to look after, so Jenna is like #1 dog sitter.
Yeah,
she lives
and Willow fucking loves Jenna. Like it surprised me how much Willow went nuts when you came over today.
I'm a dog exciter. What can I say?
It's when you come over and you play Breath of the Wild on our big TV.
It's amazing.
But yeah, just thank you. It's been delightful speaking with you, and we'll continue to talk to you when I hang up this, but it's just our audience are saying goodbye. So thanks again, Jenna. You've been fantastic.
Thank you.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my friends, details in the description are for the Shine charity organisation, as well as Gamers Beat Cancer, as Jenna mentioned. And also, if you want to hear more about people's video gaming experiences, especially through COVID, you can listen to Megan's, which we touched upon in this very conversation back in episode 87 of Genuine Chit-Chat. Now, Jenna doesn't have any social media or anything like that, so there's no way for any of you to really get into contact her aside from through me. So if there are any messages you'd like to pass on to Jenna, just contact myself on social media or email me, and I'll pass on any messages you may have for her. But this was an absolutely incredible conversation. I'm so thrilled that Jenna reached out to me to have this conversation, because I've been wanting to speak with someone who's gone through cancer for quite a while now, but obviously making contact with someone to try and ask that is quite a personal thing and may be considered quite invasive. So just another hats off to Jenna for being an amazing person. So what else is going on, and what else can you expect from me? Well, I've done a few guest spots or pods that haven't really been on this feed. So the first one was Star Wars Rebels Reviewed, episode 2. I think I may have posted this on this feed anyway, but you can watch the video version of that on YouTube. And then we are recording the third episode for that in the coming week, so that will be out in the next few weeks. As I said, we're trying to get through all 4 seasons of Star Wars Rebels before Ahsoka, and to have the 4th episode of Rebels Reviewed out before then as well. So keep an eye out for those. In addition to that, I recently appeared on Star Wars Timeline. I go on Star Wars Timeline from time to time. Ben there is amazing, and we talk about Ahsoka. So we speak about Ahsoka from her time in the Clone Wars to Rebels to Mandalorian, and what we expect from the Ahsoka series. In addition to that, I was also a judge on an episode of Comics on Trial, where Tony Farina and Scott Weatherly debated Indiana Jones' Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Comics on Trial is a format that hasn't been active for a year or two on the feed of Comics in Motion, but in essence, it's a courtroom style drama where 2 people take opposite stances on an issue, and a judge has to make a decision. So if you want to hear the outcome of that, make sure you listen to it on the podcast feed of Comics in Motion, or watch the full video version on YouTube at youtube.com/genuinechitchat. Then what's going on with me going forward? So I've actually recorded 3.5 hours worth of podcasting conversations with my friend Matt. We are launching a new series called Hot Takes, and the first episode, or the first 2 episodes really, is just going to be an introduction to Matt. He's an Australian gentleman, so we talk about the differences in Australia and the UK, as well as elements of his life, his travelling. He lived in like a Swiss commune for a while. He trekked around America for like 3 months doing hikes. It was insane. So we talk about all those sort of things, and then we also speak about Elon Musk in one of the episodes, because he is a figure that has been surrounded by controversy, and Matt is someone who follows Elon Musk's career, so it's quite interesting having someone following his career and giving us a little bit more insight into Elon Musk, as well as some of the reasons why some people view him negatively, as well as billionaires, those sorts of things. So that's what you can expect going forward. I don't think I'm going to drop all 3 of those episodes consecutively, because that is a lot of me and Matt talking, so I imagine what I'll do is release the first 2 episodes, which are kind of linking in with him and Australia and stuff, in subsequent weeks. Then potentially after that, Rebels Reviewed episode 3, and then maybe the Elon Musk conversation. I'm not overly sure. It just kind of depends on what other things I get recorded over the next couple of weeks. I do have plans for a few things, but I can let you know once I've got those in the bag. So those are generally the things that I'm up to at the moment. There's also a Disney discussions that's going to be recorded in the next month or 2, as well as obviously my show Star Wars Comics in Canon, where you can get all kinds of stuff to do with Star Wars there. And you never have to have read a single Star Wars comic or book or watched all the animated series or anything like that at all. If you enjoy Star Wars in any capacity, even if you just see the films, then my podcast is perfect for you. Even if you've never picked up the comic before in your entire life, I go through the plot details so you don't have to, so you get the broad strokes of what's going on in the comics, as well as a lot of trivia and bonus information along the way. So please check that out. And please, I'm trying to do another big push for people to subscribe to me at youtube.com/genuinechitchat. The views on the videos are quite nice, but there's not that many subscribers, probably because of the lack of niche with my content. But please subscribe to that if you can. And also make sure you check out the variety of playlists there. Every episode of Star Wars Comics in Canon is on there. Every episode of Genuine Chit-Chat is on there. And also there's video versions of the vast majority of Genuine Chit-Chat episodes as well. So please consider checking that out. Now, if you want to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Good Pods, or on Audible. You can leave a rating on Spotify, and if you do any of those things, make sure you screenshot yourself doing that. Send me either on social media or via email the screenshot of you giving that review or that rating, and I'll send you a free episode of Afterthoughts. You can choose which one, or say I just fancy listening to something about this or that, and I will send it your way. So try and get those reviews out. It really does help the show out, and I will give you something in return as well. So please do that. If you want to support the show beyond just reviews and things, obviously you can share on social media and tell your friends about about it, but the best way to support is financially. So you can either give a one-off donation at Ko-fi, so that's ko-fi.com/genuinechitchat. You can give as little as £1, you can give more than that. If you give even just £1, I will send you a couple of episodes of Afterthoughts, which is the Patreon exclusive review show that myself and Megan do, and the more you donate on Ko-fi is the more episodes you will get. Or you can choose to subscribe to my Patreon, where you can give as little as £1 a month, and if you subscribe to the Patreon feed, you'll get immediate access to every episode of Afterthoughts via the exclusive RSS feed that is on there, so you can listen to that in the Patreon app, or you can put the RSS feed in a podcast app of your choice. My one of choice is Podcast Addict. I really like that app, but you can choose however you desire. So if you want to support the show financially, please consider going to either Ko-fi or Patreon. It means the absolute world to me for any of you who are willing to do that. But again, you can support the show in a variety of other ways, as I have described. You can follow me on social media at Genuine Chit-Chat on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. I'm also now on TikTok, posting a few clips here and there of stuff I do post on other sites, but also a few exclusive things. So you can follow me on there as well if you so desire. And you can subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter, which is where myself and a lot of like-minded individuals, a lot of them are associated with Comics in Motion, we basically just give a very small summary of what we've been up to that week. So there's guest spots we've featured on, there's new episodes of stuff, there's content that's coming out. It's not all podcasting related, but it is fairly podcast centric. So if you want to subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter to avoid having to follow me on all the social media places and keep up to date with all that stuff, please go to pccnewsletter.com. A link is in the description. But friends, I think that's enough from me, so thank you so much for listening as always. I do apologise if in the outro you could hear some drilling, because literally for the last 4 hours one of my neighbours has been drilling and there is no opportune moment to be able to record. So apologies if you can hear that in the background, but thank you so much for listening as always, my friends. I will speak to you next week, likely with the first episode of my conversation with Matt. I imagine that I'll release a part 1 of that, so if you want to hear part 1 and part 2 in one go, you just go over to patreon.com/genuinechitchat. You get access to full unsplit episodes over there earlier than anyone else gets them, as well as all the Afterthoughts episodes, as well as some other bonus content as well. But thank you so much, friends, for listening as always. I appreciate each and every one of you listening all the way to the very end, and I will speak to you next week, likely with my conversation with Matt.
You have just experienced host, creator, everything elser of Genuine Chit-Chat, and also the host and creator of Star Wars Comics in Canon, found on the Comics in Motion podcast, Mike Burton.